about 50 pages here.
That long, John.
Okay, Peggy, we're live streaming.
All right, then I'll call the policy committee meeting to order, and I think we better take a roll call. I'm here, Chairman Peggy Kelland.
John Loomy is here.
Mhm.
Linda Rappaport.
It's slow shower.
Good afternoon, Dwight Bonk.
And
And
last but
Alberta
not least, the
Pedro,
most
District
important one,
Clerk.
Alberta
Dr.
Pedro,
Fong.
the most important one, Alberta Pedro.
Right,
Absolutely.
without whom this would never work. All right, first item on the agenda is to approval of the minutes. Would someone
Make a
like to
motion, I make a
motion?
motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Lumia moves, second.
Second,
Mr. Slowshower, all those in favor? Unanimous. Minutes are approved as written. All right, the next item of business is in reference to replacing references to retention schedule. And this was dealt with last Monday night at the board meeting. So, Ms. Pedro, do we have to do anything further than just note this? This was required by the state.
Yes, all these I would like the committee to approve for first reading. And
All right.
please note that in addition to changing the ED1 references to LGS1, I also took the liberty to search every time it said shall and replace that with will, in addition to all the he, she pronouns and changing it to a general neutral language. Those changes are recommended by NISBA, and NISBA will be sending updates to every single policy as they come up for review.
Okay, thank you. All
Thank
right,
you.
do we have a motion to approve for first reading? Mr.
Motion.
Lumius, second, Ms. Rappaport. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Number 3, the 3-year review. For the benefit of the public who may be listening, the board reviews district policies on a 3-year basis so that each policy comes up to be looked at once every 3 years. These are the local policies. We also have state policies, which we are required to include, and we review those when the state tells us we should. Okay, the first one is curriculum management 4200. And did anyone have any comments on that? All right, I
No.
did. If you noticed on the agenda, policy 4350, multicultural global education is non-essential. And they suggested that not be a separate policy. So I thought it would be a good idea if we incorporated that information in 4200 curriculum management. So if I wrote out a possible change there, if everyone is agreeable, to eliminate the multicultural global education as a separate policy, and instead to reword it. And the way I reworded it was keeping the first sentence: to prepare our students for citizenship in a culturally diverse world, our school community will demonstrate a commitment to developing an understanding and appreciation of all people of all cultures. Then I skipped the second paragraph because I thought that was redundant. And the first part of the third paragraph. So in other words, what I'm keeping there is children should develop a broad base of knowledge about one's own and others' cultures, comma, recognizing cultural diversity while understanding the unity of purpose that contributes to a national perspective. And inserting that on policy 4200 under curriculum development as the first paragraph.
I don't have any objections to that.
Is that all right? Mr. Slowshower?
I'm just seeing how it flows with the existing first paragraph. This way you have, in order to achieve annual instruction goals.
Right. So that's why I put it in, I was debating that too, but I thought it was better the first one, because if we put it after the first one, it interferes with the flow between recognizing the interrelation of a core curriculum and then describing the core curriculum.
Right.
And then if it came down later, it would interfere with the description of how the board approves and the superintendent integrates current educational things. That's why I put it there.
Okay.
All right, is that okay? All right, does
Yeah,
somebody want to
that's
make a
fine.
motion for first reading?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Lumia, second? Second? Mr. Slowshower, all those in favor? Okay, unanimous. All right, then, Ms. Pedro, then that would eliminate policy 4350 and revise policy 4200. Okay. All right, policy 4210. Did anyone have any changes they wanted to make to that? Anyone? Okay, then shall we vote on keeping it and just note that we looked at it? All right, all those in favor of just keeping it?
Well, I did have some changes for the first reading with the shall and the will.
Oh, right, yes, then
Yeah.
definitely it needs to go to first
Yeah.
reading. Thank you, Ms. Pedro.
Thank you.
Okay, so then, other than that, we'll just go with the technical changes. Okay, thank you. All right. Next, 4510, instructional materials. Did anyone have, there, again, there are some technical changes there. Did anyone have any other changes they wanted to see?
Quick question.
Yeah.
Does everybody, that's a bunk, maybe you can answer this question. Does every teacher have, what do you call it, instructional materials at every grade level? For example, we use.
Yes,
the
in one
equivalent-
form or another, yes.
What do you mean by, do they have a hard copy? Or do they have to download stuff from the computer?
It might all depend. I can't give you a definitive answer for all. I know they have materials, but as how those materials are derived, it'd probably be a better question for Dr. Cardwell.
All
'Cause
right,
this can be a real problem, because I know back when I was teaching in the district, we'd be given materials that we had to make copies for all the children, especially some of the little reading books that we had for them to read. And then we were scolded for using so much copy paper. But, so I mean, this is really, can be quite a problem for teachers. Do we need to put something in to guarantee that teachers are given essential materials?
I think I think something should be said to that.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
okay, do you have a wording, Mr. Lumia?
I wish I did. You guys are the English people, not me. I'm a math person.
Okay, all
I'm a
righty.
math person. It should be, every teacher at every grade level should be provided with all manuals pertaining to their grade.
Will be.
Our copies.
provided,
Was that?
Not shall.
Well,
Yes,
whatever.
will be, we're using
That's
will
what I mean.
now.
That's what I mean.
Okay, manuals and instructional materials.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because as I said, we would spend hours and hours duplicating those little reading booklets and then got scolded for it.
Well, for example, the caulking. Whatever, that's it. Good enough for me. Where should we put it?
Okay, those, okay, would that be number,
Let me
would that
see.
be number 4, or that would be one of the bullet points?
I'm trying to think. No, bullet number 4 should be all teachers.
All
Should shout,
teachers.
shall.
Will.
Will.
Will, or
Mhm.
whatever, will be oh, here it is, 40, no, that's 40, yeah. Now, bullet number 4, all teachers will be provided with hard copies of instructional material pertaining to their grade level.
Manuals and manuals and instructional materials. Will that cover manuals, do you think? It should.
Everything, I don't know. Linda, you're the elementary person at this. What do you think?
I mean, there's a difference between manuals and student materials.
Right. Yeah, so it
Um,
should be
As a
all,
teacher, as a
Like
teacher,
in math, that would be workbooks.
right,
But that doesn't include, the manuals that the teachers use for the lessons.
what are these?
Also in math, that's manipulatives,
I'm not
mhm,
talking about, I don't care about
which
math. I
can
mean, to me,
become extremely time consuming to be creating yourself.
right,
the reading for
And
phonics,
then for
what do we use for reading in
if-
phonics?
Well, for reading, if you have readers workshop, then you need to have books at every instructional level
That's
Sure.
what I'm talking
from
about.
A to Z.
I think that anything that pertains to education,
okay. How
if
about,
one,
Which
if
is
one
different-
teacher,
which is
if one
different
teacher
from
has it, whatever
manuals
one,
and the
all
charts.
teachers,
and-
all the teachers should have the same material.
right,
for
how
the grade
about
level.
with all instructional manuals and necessary student materials?
Linda,
and manipulatives.
Was that covered?
How about texts and manipulatives?
With all and necessary student, well, it can be more than that too, because sometimes like with the science kits, they don't have all the materials and you have to, scrounge around and try to get all the things because they say, oh, they're easy to obtain. Well, they're not always easy to obtain.
Right, So materials.
Okay. All right, does that look good to everyone?
I have a question.
Or another question?
yeah,
Yes.
So it might be a little vague with the necessary student materials. So
Mhm.
does that mean the district now is going to purchase tissue boxes, folders,
Alberta,
colored pencils for every classroom? Are we not asking donations from parents?
Well, that's not
Alberta.
instruction. Those are not instructional materials.
that's right.
No, not
Look, every
tissues.
every
And
teacher,
in reality, if you look at things like pencils, if the kid doesn't bring pencils or paper, the teacher supplies them. I mean,
Mhm.
that's something we wind up doing because the child needs it. And if for whatever reason the family doesn't provide them, we're providing them. So, if a
Look,
child
I'm-
doesn't have a pencil, you have to give them a pencil.
I'm talking about teachers, every teacher
Yeah.
should have the same instructional materials.
Mhm.
All third grade teachers should have the same instructional material at every school. Fourth grade, they should have whatever instructional material they need, they should be universal. One teacher should not be should have less material than another teacher. That's
Right.
what I'm talking about.
Okay. How about necessary student learning materials or student classwork materials? I don't know as we need to provide.
Linda, what do you think? You taught at that level. What would you rather at when you taught the elementary schools? What would you, as a teacher, what do you want the district to provide for you?
I mean, definitely you have to have a classroom library in elementary school if you're teaching readers workshop. You definitely have to have the manuals, with the lesson plans and, whatever charts or, instructional materials.
Then very simply, when I put bullets of what we just said, we'll provide it with bullet number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4.
Do
Classroom.
you want to, I'm sorry, you want to just, I mean, all teachers are required to have instructional material that is required, from state education. It's already, right? It's the district's
Right.
responsibility, correct? To provide the
Yeah, but-
teachers with the
Oh, yeah.
basic.
I don't think state education specifies which materials each teacher should get.
No,
No.
they
Or
give
whatever the third grade curriculum is, wouldn't that
think-
be?
Well, whatever
I
it
think-
is that the district has decided is the program that we're using to deliver the standards.
Yeah, how about
Okay.
changing
Okay.
necessary to
provides the
required?
What?
required student materials to, for
Well,
instruction.
when Linda said, bullet wise, identifies everything that each teacher should get. It's not vague. It's not, in my opinion, anyway.
Well,
Linda,
I think we don't want to limit it, but we could say including,
But
well,
not
number
limited
one,
to?
number two, number three, number four, including, go ahead, Linda,
and
Including-
mention some of the things.
one, put a bullet, number one.
One, instructional manuals.
What else?
Two, well, are we talking math?
No, I'm talking, forget about math. At
This
the
is
elementary-
just
at-
ELA.
And at the elementary school, every teacher has to be able to teach a number of subjects.
Right.
As a math teacher, I didn't need the manuals, but as at the elementary school level, all these teachers are teaching different subjects.
Yeah.
And it seems to me they should be provided with all the necessary
Well-
things for them to teach those subjects.
Right.
So.
Well, I'm a little concerned about limiting them by being too definite. Because for instance, if you're teaching social studies, you need maps, all right? And
Right. So
I mean, first year I taught high school social studies, the maps were all pre-World War II, which is ridiculous. The school wasn't that old. When I was teaching sixth grade at Evans, the only film strips we had were again from the late 1940s. So kids wanted to know why they dressed so funny in other countries. Well, that was the fashion back then. It's not like anybody was dressing in the 1980s. So, you know, I mean, so appropriate materials, but they could be all sorts of things. It's whatever you need to teach the lesson.
Yeah, but listen, when you're saying structural materials.
All right.
Well,
So
what?
so it would be
instructional-
manuals, it would be texts,
Go
How
ahead.
about,
it would be manipulatives,
Good.
Okay, I'm just, can't we just say by grade level?
it would be
Of course,
charts
okay.
and graphs.
What else?
Also, you know, online, access to online.
Maps, globe, well, whatever you need.
Access
Basically,
to
it would
online
depend
links.
on the classroom, what you need.
Yeah, but also,
how about
you know,
articles?
at Putnam Valley, they would purchase
Am I coming
um,
through?
different programs
Can you hear
like, you know, IXL or A to Z reading or, you know, whatever reading program, you know, what's the one that you guys are using to assess reading? Dwight?
What's this called?
You mean the Lucy Calkins?
Lucy Corkle.
No,
correct.
no, no, the online assessment.
Yeah, I ready?
I ready?
Yeah, iReady.
Mhm.
And also, I mean, you guys have just purchased a program to help with remote learning, correct?
I would think you would want to include any article or any mechanism that is consistent with the curriculum that aids in student learning and teaching and effective instruction. So I
For
think
the-
that
Right,
covers
for the specific grade level, right?
Of course,
pertain-
yes. absolutely.
pertaining
What you're
to-
teaching, yeah.
Correct. I
don't
think that
think-
encompasses everything.
Right, for grade level, for specific grade level. I'm just saying, if we
Or
list all the
subject area.
bullets, as Peggy says, are we pigeonholing, you know, teachers to say, okay, I gotta have this, that, you know, and then if we somehow leave something out,
No, but if we.
I think you can say items deemed necessary to, if you want to say highly effective teaching and student learning. That takes something.
I think,
out of
I think if we start listing the specific items, I think it might bite us.
Yeah, I'm not listing.
You
question
may want to
is-
say items and programs.
Should every teacher at every grade level have the same instructional materials? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
And if that doesn't exist, I don't think that exists right now. If
Well,
that's
we're
the case,
putting it in.
It should.
That's what I'm saying. There should be.
It should. What
What
I can share with you, what I can share with you from my experiences over the years, I believe the district has made significant advancements in
Mhm.
providing up-to-date materials that are necessary for teaching and learning.
Mhm,
In the past, sometimes they were borrowed, they were shared,
mhm.
there weren't necessarily enough materials. I believe now that it's fairly consistent among each grade level in each building in regards to the articles that they have to aid with teaching and learning. I
Mhm.
can't say that it's 100% consistent, but I believe it's now more consistent than it's ever been. And
That's
I think
true.
we need to strive to make sure that it is consistent and make sure that everyone has access to whatever materials they believe are critical to teaching and learning within their curriculum per their grade level.
Well, good. Then
Mr. Blunt,
if
well
we
said.
put it in the policy, hopefully that will continue in future years.
And you know, the thing is that at Putnam Valley, there was only one elementary school. So we didn't have different things going on in different elementary schools. And the principal was very consistent about making sure that all classrooms were teaching similarly, if not identically.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I
well,
think
you do want,
it's
Let's put
harder
that-
when you have
Alberta, which
10
includes
it's harder when you have 10 elementary
article.
schools.
Mhm. Right.
I think what you have there is excellent. I think it's very good.
Yes.
You may want to say, instead of including, you could say,
Such as,
yeah, such as, since you've already said include.
Yes, such as.
Can we
Um,
also kind of put a disclaimer such as, but not limited to?
Yeah,
Good, such
yeah.
as, but not
very
limited.
good,
Excellent.
excellent.
Mhm.
Which
That
may,
way, that, you know, I
which
don't want someone to read it and say, okay, according to the policy, it has 5 things and that's all I got, because that's what it says.
Yeah,
which may include, but is not limited to.
yes,
There you go.
good.
I think that hits on it. I
Mhm.
agree with your point there, Eddie.
Very
I
good.
do
Thank you,
agree, but-
Doctor.
Good.
Good, that's excellent.
Yeah, yep, great minds all working together. Good. All right, is everyone happy with it now?
Yes,
Okay, all those in favor of first reading? Okay, good, all right. Next, 4511, textbook selection and adoption.
I gotta look at that. Which one is it? Oh, you got it right there. I don't have to go through my 4, 5.
I had one suggestion, it's just wordsmithing. In number 8, I put in the second line in number 8, when desirable and necessary, I put it at the beginning of the sentence because I thought that read a little clearer. So it would read, when desirable and necessary, they should contain supplementary aids to learning, such as a table of contents, introduction, study activities, exercises, questions, problems, selected references, bibliography, index, glossary, and appendices. Is everyone okay with that?
Wait, do you mean in front of the first sentence or the
No,
second?
in
sentence?
number 8, sentence number 8.
No, but there are 2 sentences
Yeah, in front of the second sentence.
in front of the second sentence.
Yes. It's just moving that when desirable and necessary to the beginning of the sentence rather than putting it as a phrase in the middle.
May I ask you guys a question?
Yep.
How do you guys feel about new textbook that we as a board should be getting those copies?
Well, I was just going to bring that up, John. And you've been on the board the longest, and then Peggy, then me, then Linda. I cannot recall ever at a board meeting getting a list from administration of books to approve. I've never seen a list of books.
Well, normally, Eddie, I'd normally go to Central and ask for those particular copies or want to look at it, especially mathematics.
Yes.
I
I
understand, but
asked for
it's
those
the board's
copies.
responsibility for the approval of all textbooks to be used. So I know we do get, I know when there's a couple of new, I do remember a couple of new course offerings. I don't recall if there was a textbook associated with it in the description submitted from the curriculum department and that committee that was putting those new programs, it said, reference would be this, or we'd be using that particular book. I mean, we actually get the name of the book, but we don't actually get the physical book to look at it. So is it then our
Perhaps.
responsibility to then search the book to review it? Or shouldn't we be provided the material,
I
to
think
review
we-
whatever new
I
text?
think that's a good
Eddie,
point,
Eddie,
because
I think we could,
I've tried looking them up online. They don't have the full book there. So I've made appointments. I have to make an appointment to see the materials over at the district office. It's not like it's put out for the board to see. I think
Why
they
not-
should be
why not-
automatically available for the board to look at before
If
we're
we're supposed to
voting on it.
vote on, say if we're supposed to vote on it to approve, I'm assuming responsible for the approval. That means the board, a majority has to approve the material.
May I
I
I
interject?
guess
Alberta,
could we make it,
Alberta.
could it, as,
Yes,
yes,
as
Ms.
part of
Baker.
board packet? I don't know.
Alberta,
May I please? Every single time that there's a textbook approval, and there's not that many, those, I bring them, I have them available when we were in person at board meetings, the book at the table. They're available to come in the Friday before when we post the meeting. I've had the actual textbook, but I think more of the issue is the existing books. I don't have a library of the existing books. It's only when there's a new one that comes before the board, I physically remember holding and having those books for the board.
Well,
I
thank you for
that-
that clarification, but I do think that the district should make what materials we're using more readily available to board members. We shouldn't have to.
Or maybe at least a list. And then if
Yes, there you
somebody
go.
wants to look at a specific book for whatever reason, they
They
could
can go
make
to
an
Central.
appointment to look at the specific book. Because look, we've had a couple of instances, through elementary, and I can't remember the couple of books offhand, but they weren't textbooks. It was more, books for the kids to read. And some parents, were not comfortable with the material. And I don't know if the board ever approved that particular, book to be read by the students or not. I mean, some had some religious overtones and some parents, took offense to it, but I don't know, and are we supposed to be approving a list every year, or once it's approved, and that's it?
I
Well,
think
I-
that's library, is that library material selection or is it textbook?
I'm talking about, look,
I guess you're right. If someone's given, whatever, someone's given the Odyssey to read, I mean, obviously it's not a textbook, it's a book to read, and then they're gonna write a paper and discuss it and so forth.
Mhm.
can I ask you a question? Should we actually determine?
Well, that would be a
what each seat-
different policy, because that's not textbook, that's,
Yeah, that would be down at the bottom, the section on selection of literary works. the classroom.
right.
Right, and there's a whole complaint procedure that goes along
Right.
with that.
Right. Well, would we like to put in a sentence to the effect that textbooks will be readily available for board members to peruse?
New textbooks, you're talking about
Or
new
can-
courses, new
Yeah.
textbook. I don't want to look at new textbooks, new courses, which have new textbooks. I
Well,
think that
perhaps-
But you know-
as Alberta says, she brings it to the board. I think she should leave them at the central, and we should be able to go there and look at them.
well, I think also it would be helpful to have them. I don't expect her to fill up her office with all the textbooks, but that somewhere at the district office, they must have copies of these books. So that if people ask us they say something about the math curriculum that was adopted 2 years ago, we can go and take a look at it and be able to answer them.
Would it be permitted to put just language in? I would just like there to be a master list somehow, that each year the board can look at it. And as I said, if there's something they want to question, and then if we approve a new course, we're just adding the new material to the existing list.
That sounds good. Do you have a sentence?
Let me just see where to put.
Do we really want to get a master list? Do we realize how many books that entails? A master
John,
list can-
I would
pages
think
and
that
pages
a
and pages
list
and pages.
exists, because if you have to reorder, plus we've eliminated books, And there's got to be, I'm sure there's something somewhere. And each department, okay, as you just said, if each grade is supposed to have a manual of what they're teaching, I would think that each grade level would have, you know, 7th grade reading assignment. There should be a list of the 5 books that the 7th grade is supposed to read for that year.
I was looking more, I was
That's not
looking up.
Now, this policy
I
is.
don't know if
not
unless
the
I'm
way that
wrong.
it works in elementary school. You can have 1,000 books in your classroom library as an elementary school teacher. No one's going to vet every single book except the teacher who's ordering them. And even then, you don't read them in advance. You just assume that whoever the vendor is has appropriate books for elementary school.
Honestly, I understand what you're saying, Linda, but most of the books that are in the classroom libraries are, I mean, I'll just tell you, my wife and I probably filled close to 3/4 of the elementary school classroom library at Fishkill Plains with books. Obviously, they were given to the teachers to approve before they put them into their classroom. And some teachers requested books that they couldn't get. I understand that point. I'm talking more, I guess if you want to say from 6th grade and on, or just secondary, where there's actually assigned, you know, it's assigned reading material as part of the course. A list of those particular books. So
I
don't know.
whether it's the Odyssey.
Look,
You think
or
it's the
you know,
board's responsibility to be censoring reading material that
It's not censoring.
teachers-
We're supposed to approve, but if we're responsible to approve all textbooks and literary books that the kids are reading for assignments, I'm not questioning to censor and not censor. I'm just saying, shouldn't we have a list to know what is being used? I mean, if the requirement is the board to approve the Odyssey before a teacher can do the Odyssey with the kids, I'm just saying, shouldn't there just be a list? That's all.
Yeah, there should be a list.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not
think the
saying to
list-
read and to censor, but
I think the list should be for new courses that we are adopting, that we are voting on, to go back to every grade level and look at every book. I mean, that to me is too much. To me, all new courses, which the board must approve or has to will approve, should have a copy in a central office of the textbooks. And
Well,
materials
but
that
I think Mr. Sloshower made a good point that it would be that somebody is and Ms. Rappaport, that they're reordering textbooks, so that actual textbooks as opposed to the individual literary works, surely they must have a master list of what textbooks we have. So if somebody says to me, which they do, well, what is this math program you use anyway? And I have to rack my brain because we adopted a couple of years ago, but it would be good to have a list so I can find out what it is and look it up.
should we ask Dr. Caldwell if something already exists? And if it does, fine. And if it doesn't, then I just, not to give anybody more work at this point with what's going on. Is everyone okay with that? I mean, is there a rush for this particular policy?
No, we can table it for next month and find
I'm
out.
just saying, why don't we
Table it-
just ask
table it. I
if they
vote
already
for that.
have it, then that's fine. We can just
Sure.
tweak it, just a
Dr.
suggestion.
Bunk, they're still there?
Yes, your opinion, Mr. Blanc, Dr. Blanc?
I
Didn't
would
mean to
say,
strip you of your title.
I'm not totally familiar with the purchasing of materials, but I would say that if that's something that the board wishes to have, then if the board decides to do that, then I'm sure the administration will provide the board with whatever it is they request.
Look, I make a motion, we table it. Somebody go to Dr. Cardwell
Okay.
and find out.
Mr. Loomy has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Sloshower, all those in favor of tabling? Okay, opposed? Okay, carried. All right. 4513, library materials selection. Hey, anyone have anything to say on this? Okay. Okay. All right, would someone like to make a motion for first reading with the changes that Ms. Pedro put in?
I'll
Okay,
make a
Mr.
motion.
Lumia moved. A second? Do we have a second for first reading? Ms. Rappaport, all those in favor? Okay, first reading. All right, 4524, school libraries and media center. Anything here?
It seemed cut and dry. I don't, you know,
Yeah. Okay,
other than the one change.
right. Do we have a motion for first reading?
I'll make a
Mr.
motion.
Slowshower,
I'll
second.
second it.
Mr. Lumia, all those in favor? Okay. 4526, computer use and instruction. Okay. All right, if there's no problems, do we have a motion for first reading? Motion? First reading, Mr. Lumia, second. Mr. Slowshower, all those in favor of first reading as written with the little corrections. Okay, all right, unanimous, first reading. Okay, tabled from the last meeting was the honor roll, and Ms. Pedro was kind enough to
Yeah,
find us.
Peggy,
the-
I'm sorry. I know could I just ask a question?
Sure,
I know, again, when we're using with obviously with the distance learning and computer use and instruction,
right.
do you think it makes any sense at this point to address the fact that just from the remote learning, or should we just leave it as is for now, and then, you know, if this becomes the norm for the rest of the school year to revisit? Because now obviously it's going to be theoretically 100% computer use and instruction.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't know if it makes sense to put, I don't know, an addendum to this, COVID related only, or
I can
Just-
share trustee Sloshower, that much of the input that I've gotten from districts throughout the state, as well as attorneys, is they're not suggesting making changes that are COVID related at this point, or doing
Right.
MOAs unless it's ultimately necessary to proceed with the reopening plans. However, I think you make a good point that if somewhere down the line, it's felt that this needs to be re-examined and have additions made, I think at that time, that's what many districts are doing. I hope
Okay.
that's helpful.
all right, I guess just something to keep in the back of our minds
Okay.
for this particular policy.
All right.
Okay, no problem. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. We can always bring it up again. Okay, and finally, we're on the honor roll. And if you had a chance to look at the materials from that Ms. Pedro sent to us.
Look, I think if I may say something, I think we have enough, I think we have enough on our plate to look at new conditions for honor roll. I mean, if I look at the other people, Arlington, we're better off than Arlington and other places. So I think we should wait on this particular change in particular policy. I don't want 10,000 parents come say, hey, you just changed the honor roll, we have enough on our plate. So I'd like to leave it as it is for this year, and maybe come back to it next year.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Hey, Mr. Slowshower, you brought it up originally.
Well, I mean, at what point, John, does it become important? Okay, I mean, our one concern, well, a big concern that Dr. Bonk had was, you know, what the other districts are doing, how it might, a change might affect applications to college, you know, to be fair, and everything else. I mean, we've got districts here that don't even have an honor roll, unless when she put no honor, she just didn't get a response. Ms. Pedro, Is it because you didn't get a response from Hyde Park or Rhinebeck? Or did they state they don't have an honor roll?
Hyde Park and Rhinebeck do not do honor roll.
Okay,
So
so,
what the districts I did not receive a response from, I didn't even list.
okay,
So there's quite a few I didn't get a response at all.
didn't get one from, sorry. So obviously with everything going on, it wasn't, that
If you look
much
at, if you look at
of a
Arlington,
concern.
students who, you look at Arlington, a policy, students who maintain an overall average of 85 or higher with no grade below 65 are on the honor roll. Ours a little more stringent than that.
Why? It's 85 and you're in honor roll.
No, but you cannot have anything lower than that. Our low grade has to be what? What's the lowest grade we can have? I forgot.
Well, it's an 80,
80 versus 65.
okay? And then
I think
that's high honor roll, and then 75 is regular honor roll. They're 60, no grade below 65 for honor roll, and no grade below 65 for high honor
Regular
roll.
honor for high honor roll is no less than 80. And I think
Okay. Again, I'm just, an 85 is, you're a B student. And here's the other thing, and maybe Dr. Bonk can share a little bit more info on this. If a student is not taking any honors classes, and I don't know, educate me. How are we considering someone for honor roll if they don't take honors classes? They're
So,
taking
Eddie,
regular classes.
So what I can share with you is the question you're asking. Many school districts that have honor rolls and high honor rolls and principals lists, they do things very similarly as is indicated here. And that was the point that I tried to bring up at the last meeting. I can recall as a principal, I want to say probably 7 years ago, Mr. Lumia, correct me if I'm wrong,
big discussion.
spending many meetings, meeting with parents, meeting with teachers, meeting with other educators, reviewing other documentation from other districts as to what the qualification should be. I can remember hearing passionate comments from parents who their child may not take an honor roll course. They may not take an honor roll course because they didn't meet a prerequisite that the parent may have had an issue with. And based upon a policy as to how they're accepted into an honors course or not, or an AP course, may have precluded them from being a member of the honor roll. And many people felt that was not appropriate. And if that was the case, then we need to look at our prerequisites for admitting students to various courses. Should it depend upon how they did on an exam? Should it be a teacher recommendation? Should it be both? It's pretty much all over the place in regards to how it's done. And it's pretty much left up to every district. But I think if you take a look at this, it is very, very uniform with what other districts throughout the region are doing. And I can tell you that from what I recall, President Lumia, this change that was made it more stringent than it was to begin with, correct?
Mr. Lumia?
President Lumia?
Oh, he may have lost computer
I think we
contact.
lost him, yeah.
Yeah, that happened to me at the board meeting the other night.
I can remember passionate arguments from all sides. And I don't think there's any perfect solution here. I think that when you look at this, we need to consider, at least in my opinion, we need to be in the ballpark. And yes, the methods for achieving an honor roll or a high honor roll or a principals list may be different than it was 20 years ago. Some people would say the curriculum is different 20 years now than it was 20 years ago. Some people might say that there's a difference in the level of teaching. Some people might talk about the assessments. There's a whole number of factors that could come into play here. In my opinion, the fact that we are now looking at remote learning and may continue to look at remote learning, what impact is that going to have potentially on people's ability to learn? And there have already been concerns that have been expressed throughout our community and others about remote learning versus in-person learning, so on and so forth. I think that at this point in time to look at revising this, without getting together a committee of educators and parents to weigh in on what they feel is appropriate, I think is premature. I think that the way to approach this may be similar to the way that it was done in the past. We have a curriculum committee. We say that we want to review the requirements for honor roll, and then there are discussions within that committee that take place. Then based on that committee of educators and parents and students for that matter, a recommendation I think then could be made to the policy committee. And then the policy committee could then hear that recommendation. And then based on that could make a recommendation to the board. I understand, Trustee Sloshower, your concerns. I just think that before this is changed, there still needs to be further study and more input from all of the stakeholders. That's my opinion on it.
I mean, I can agree with you and Mr. Lumi, you know, the fact that we don't know where we're going for the rest of this year. So, you know, to table it possibly for, you know, for next summer discussion, when hopefully things are back to normal for September 2021. Obviously, I'm not opposed to that. I'm just saying, I just think we each need to think about, you know, pushing the envelope. I mean, look, you can't have a class of 600 and 400 of them are on honor roll. It just, it doesn't make sense to me. Not taking honors classes, you're taking a regular class, the workload is different. You're recognizing an honor roll student with a 90 average or above and a high honor roll student, 95 or above. I don't know, call me crazy. You know, you're an A student, you're an A+ student, it's honor roll. You make some excellent points, but I don't think this is pushing, you know, I don't think we're challenging the students enough from that standpoint. I mean, again, it's just my personal opinion. And, you know, if you talk to, you know, teachers in the high school, and we brought this up and discussed it last time, you know, some of these kids are just not prepared, you know, and again, as you said, it could be a curriculum conversation. The workload in junior high, you know, from an honors standpoint, does not prepare them for honors in high school. And some honors classes and things in high school are not preparing them for college, for DCC. We get a lot of feedback from professors there that say, you know, you were an honor student in this course in high school. The work is too much for you here. I don't want to, I'm just looking at it as not to give students and parents a false sense of, you know, I don't understand my child, you know, we get this all the time, was in honors last year with no problem. And now there's a problem, you know, what's going on? The fact of the matter is, you know, there's a chance your student, you know, is just not prepared. And I don't know if we're doing a disservice. Are we doing what's best for the kid based on their abilities? Obviously, we want to push the envelope. And I understand there's always certain factors, Dr. Bonk, and you get into that conversation about, you know, specifics, but things can always be, as you said, a case by case, a recommendation. For whatever reason, the student couldn't take the workload. There's some situations going on at home, other responsibilities. There's always exceptions, but I just think we really need to give it a real serious look, you know, to make sure that we're preparing these kids as best as possible for the future, and not just, you know, honors, and then you get somewhere and you're just truly not prepared. And then that just is, to me, is a setback for a particular student.
Yes.
I
have
understand.
Mr. Lumia who wants to say something.
Oh,
I don't know if you
okay.
can hear him. He's on my phone.
Okay,
Try.
You guys hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, years ago, for everybody's benefit, there was a young lady who was the valedictorian of the class who took very few honors courses. But she was exceptional in all the non-honors courses. She had almost a 99 average in every course that she took. They were not necessarily honors courses. So to say that people who should be in the honors should only consider honors students, that I don't think that's appropriate. We can go on with this conversation on and on and on and on. I think it's just that at this point, I think we have the policy should stay the way it is, and perhaps next year look at it.
Yeah, John, we already voted on that for next year. You missed that whole
So
part.
So here's
Wait a
my,
minute, I don't think we voted and we didn't
No, I
hear
know,
from
I was
Ms.
just,
Rappaport.
I was just teasing him.
So
I'm
my
just
take
teasing.
I
is-
know. We
my
didn't hear
take
from
is-
Ms. Rappaport either.
I think your points are valid and I understand. I just ask, it's my suggestion that they be reviewed by a committee of educators, of parents and students. And I think their guidance will benefit us.
I
well
don't
in the
disagree. I'm not disagreeing with you, Doctor.
future. Okay.
Okay, Ms. Rappaport, what would you say about this?
Well, number one, I agree with Dr. Bonk. I think that all the stakeholders involved should be
I didn't know into that. I don't understand.
part of the committee. But I don't know. I probably have very unconventional ideas about with 2020 hindsight, having children who have gone through the system, that those kinds of accolades do not necessarily translate into success in later life. So I'm not sure how important it is. Ultimately, I think that there are many things that go into success, and it has to do with hard work, and it has to do with, you know, those soft skills, and it has to do with imagination and, I don't know, other things that are not necessarily measured by numbers on a paper. So I'm probably not the person to ask.
Well, I agree with Dr. Bonk that we should probably have a committee, and I agree with Mr. Lumia that it probably is a good idea to wait till we're through with this, all the disruption of the current learning, because I don't think this year is going to be at all typical of learning or of school for most students. So how many people agree to table this to, well, I guess we're just remove it for now.
Let's say remove, since I made the motion originally for discussion, I would just say, make a new motion to delay the review of honors roll until the end of the school year or the beginning of next school year.
Until, could I modify that to
Sure.
say until as well, and have a committee also
Yes,
until we have input? Would that be all right?
yes.
Well, we could do, yeah, I mean, we could just table it and then, well, not table it, but just remove it. And then when we bring it back up for discussion, we could put some guidelines together
Right.
that the policy committee would like to form, you know, some type of subcommittee or reach out to the curriculum department to put something together based
Mhm.
on some of our direction of what we're looking for. And then, you know, we could put something together from that standpoint. Either or, I mean, you know, at this point, as we said, you know, for this year, doesn't make sense. So I agree. So
Okay,
let's
All
just,
right.
you know, suspend discussion until, you know, and then somebody could bring it back up again for next year.
all right. Is everyone in accord?
Yes,
All right, yes. All right,
Okay.
very good. All right, do we have any other items anyone would like to bring up? We still have 8 minutes. We can always end early. Okay, well, thank you. I think this is a great committee. Everyone works very well, and we accomplished the agenda even faster than we thought we would, but with
Kelly,
lots
you,
of good
Ms.
input.
Kellen, thanks for your leadership, and of course, Alberta,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pedro. She
And
gets
Dwight,
us
at
so
the
well
bunk-
organized.
At the bunk, your wisdom is always appreciated.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Bonk.
Well, thank you so much. Look, it's always great dialogue and great conversation. I
Right.
enjoy being a
Just-
part of it.
Peggy, just to confirm, are we going to do Wednesday, October 7th
Yes, unless anyone has a problem with
at
that.
4 o'clock?
Mhm.
Okay.
Is that all right with everyone?
Yes.
Okay, very
Well,
good. Do we have a
Linda,
motion?
Linda, stay on. What's the name of, Peggy, stay on for a minute. I just want to talk to you. Eddie,
I go?
Eddie's not coming to the meeting possibly next week, so just to stay your two people on.
Okay.
Does
Okay,
that mean I should leave the meeting? No, I know. Take
Just
care,
leave.
everyone.
Go
Take
bye.
care. Stay well.
Bye, everybody.
Just leave
thank
us
you.
Bye, all.
alone.